Is there a fan line that they screamed at you, a chirp that you remember is a pretty good one?
That playoff game, my dad told me this. I didn't even hear it. I'm so locked in. I was walking in from the bullpen, and they're screaming out, F Braxton Garrett. And my little sisters were at the game, and both my little sisters are crying because they're yelling at me. And, my dad's loving it, laughing, thinking it's great. And, that's a great memory.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Off the Hook with the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. I'm Noah Schlicksup, and my guest today, Braxton Garrett. Braxton, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here on the show. Our second episode of the season. Scott Kornberg got an interview to start it off, but we didn't have the name yet, so I don't fully count it as an episode yet of the podcast. We got Jacob Berry. He's off to a nice start, and you as well. What a start to this season. Had to stretch 14 straight no-hit innings.
Yep.
That's been the big story, I feel like, this year. So let's start off with that. Have you ever been on a stretch that dominant in your playing career?
No, I don't think so. I've had some good stretches, but I've never been one to suppress hits that much. So yeah, it was incredible. Before my recent surgery, I rarely walked guys, but would tend to give up, some hits. And right now, it's quite the opposite. I'm not giving up a ton of hits, but I'm walking a few too many. So, yeah.
Has that just been your style of pitching change a little bit, or is it more of a feel type of thing?
I think it's a little bit of the feel. Again, just coming off that surgery, first year off of it, still getting used to that feel. The game will get a little sped up on me right now. But yeah, it's a combination of things, but still trying to get that feel for the zone, feel for each pitch.
Had you ever thrown a no-hitter before?
Not professionally.
Mm-hmm.
No, not professionally. I'm sure I threw one when I was an amateur, but I can't think of it specifically.
You can't remember a no-hitter?
I had a pretty good high school career, but to be honest, I feel like I always found a way to give up one. So I don't have that many if I do have one. Well, I played a lot of travel ball games too, so there's a lot of baseball.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Grew up in Alabama, right?
Correct.
You moved around a little bit, but ended up Florence is where you graduated, correct?
Correct.
7th overall draft pick. Let's go back to your high school days before we really get rolling with the professional stories here. Your dad, high school baseball coach, how much influence did he have on you growing up?
Oh, the biggest influence. Out of any coach I've had, my dad was surely the biggest influence. Taught me how to pitch growing up. We talked a lot about Tom Glavine, Greg Maddux, guys like that who could command the zone. This was pre-velocity talk and all that, and all we talked was pitching, and he did an awesome job, just teaching me the way and developing me.
Do you feel like nowadays they focus less on command and how to pitch and more on just how fast can you throw the ball, how much spin? Has that been the main emphasis in today's day and age of pitching?
For sure. The analytics are definitely more, they use them a lot more. I wouldn't say it's all the way gone. Everyone pitches different. You just have to find that mix. And for me, in 2023, my best professional year ever, I couldn't tell you what any of my pitches did, analytically on the TrackMan. And, coming off this surgery, I tried to make it a point to learn how to use it while also keeping the command, keeping my feel for, what the hitter's thinking, how to move the zone and things like that. So there's got to be a mix, but yes, the analytics are huge now.
Yeah, I do wonder because you see a lot more walks. The Reds had walked like 7 straight batters in a game the other day.
Yep.
Just wild to me.
Yeah.
But I going back to growing up in baseball, I had listened to an interview you did on the Marlins radio network a couple years ago. I think you had mentioned you were a Red Sox fan growing up. How did that happen in Alabama?
So my dad, he's from the Midwest originally, and he moved around a lot as a kid as well.
It's a good part of the country, by the way. I'm an Iowa, Illinois guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that's
blue collar.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he never had a team. He liked the Tigers, but he always gravitated towards players more so. So Mike Schmidt was his guy, so he liked the Phillies. But yeah, growing up, my oldest brother, who I wanted to be like when I was a kid, he started to love the Red Sox. and it was right around that 04 year when they made the 3-0 comeback. I just followed my oldest brother. He liked the Red Sox, so I did, and then that developed. Dustin Pedroia came, and that was my favorite position player. Still is my favorite position player of all time.
Wanted to be a shortstop, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like if the Jumbo Shrimp or the Marlins gave you an at-bat, do you feel like you'd be able to do anything? What was it, Camarena with the Padres a few years ago,
Yep.
the Grand Slam?
Yep. It's funny you say that. I've been bragging to the guys. You know, I'm one of the older guys on the team now, and one of the few guys who got to hit as a pitcher. And I have 2 hits in the big leagues. First one's off Zach Wheeler. I will tell anyone that. But right now, probably not. I have a chance, though. I can hit a little bit. No pop, but I can hit.
Can you use that to kind of put some of the younger guys in their place? Like, hey, I've got more hits than you do in the bigs.
I literally was doing it last night after the game. So, yeah, I do it all the time.
They have that machine back there where you can face anybody.
Yep.
You ever hop in the cage, get a couple swings in for fun?
I haven't yet. I've been telling the guys, they're like, you should download, your stuff and face yourself.
That'd be awesome.
I'm like mixed on it. I'm like, well, what if I get in there and I'm just crushing myself, like just hitting singles, doubles, probably get my confidence down a little bit. But they always say the trajectory makes you a little bit nastier, so I ought to get in there.
Yeah, I think I'd be all over that. I mean, you're talking about free reps. You're a Kershaw guy growing up.
Yep.
You could download him in there.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be all over that. I'd like to convince Scott. I don't know if he'd let me do it, but let me take a couple swings in there. Showcase, what you guys get, the technology side of things. I feel like we're bouncing all over here, but going back, growing up, you talk about Pedroia, you talk about Kershaw. Was there anyone else that stood out to you as maybe not like even a well-known guy, just a player you liked that played the game the right way?
Yeah. Cliff Lee, he's pretty well known, not a craziest pull, but I loved Cliff Lee when he was with the Phillies, that World Series run they had. Red Sox guys like J.D. Drew, guys like that. Hart, you put me on the spot. I can't think of a ton, but those are 2 that pop into my head.
I was interested. I'd love pulling players out of, back of my head. Like, I told you before the interview, I grew up a Cubs fan.
Mm-hmm.
Giovanni Soto was my favorite player growing up. I'm not sure if you remember him.
Yeah.
But I love making those polls. I'm sure it's easier for you now as guys around the league. Who's maybe an underrated player? A lot of people talk about Luis Ariz, and you were teammates with him at one point. But is there anyone else that maybe isn't the go-to, that's an underrated player that you don't feel like gets enough love in the league?
Whenever people ask me, like, a guy you wouldn't think of, like, Christian Walker is a guy who absolutely owns me. If you ask a baseball guy who Christian Walker is, they'll know who he is. But I feel like he doesn't get a ton of love. Incredible at first base. And, every time I face him, he lights me up. So that's one guy. The pesky lefties. Gosh,
any pesky lefty.
Yeah, the pesky lefties that just slap balls around. I have a little bit harder. I'm comfortable against lefties. Don't get me wrong, but the ones that'll just slap stuff and have a good eye for the zone, those are the tougher lefties to get out.
Are you a reverse splits guy?
I'm not. I better against lefties for sure.
Mm-hmm. But those pesky ones, they
drive you crazy. But again, another thing when people ask me like, who gives you most trouble? It's like all the big name righties are a tough matchup for me. Acuna, any righty that hits balls hard, analytically, are not a good matchup for me. I feel comfortable against anybody, but that's what they'll tell you.
Yeah. How about going back to when you got drafted, 7th overall? You were committed to Vandy, though, and I'd imagine going up to that draft process, how did you weigh, going to a program like Vanderbilt? I think back a few years ago, there's some guys who did get drafted out of high school that say, I wish I had gone. Looking back on that now, would you have made the same choice to go to the draft, go pro out of high school?
I believe that I would. I'd make the same decision, but it was very hard. If you go back and look, I didn't sign until the signing deadline. That I took a long time to make a decision, and technically I didn't sign on the line until the day after, but we verbally agreed on the deadline. So, yeah, I really wanted to go. I used it as much as I could to, you know,
Get that
leverage, and I was committed. I loved Coach Corbin. It was a tough phone call having to tell him I was taking the money going on in the draft.
I'm sure he understood. Though.
Of course.
7th overall, that's tough to pass
Of
up.
course, and he was great all the way through.
Mm-hmm. You had a setback pretty early in your career. That was your first Tommy John. How did you handle that after just getting into professional ranks?
Yeah, it was tough. It was really my first injury ever. I didn't know much, about my body, how it moved, much about being in the training room, anything like that. It was a big adjustment. As a young kid being away from home, I was, basically my first full year. It was tough, but you learn so much, going through things like that. I had a ton of guys who were there, with me going through it as well. So, yeah, learned a lot, but it was tough being that young and it kind of being my first injury.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, you think about guys moving away to college, and that's different, moving away
Right.
from your home. And the pressure that comes with playing professional baseball, you're around guys who are, in their 20s and all this stuff. I can't imagine what's that like. Is there anyone that kind of took you under their wing and helped you out early on?
Yeah, I had my best friend to this day, Jordan Holloway. He was with me. We had Tommy John together, and he was kind of my running mate all the way through that. And then we came back and kind of rose in the minor league ranks. But there's been so many guys who have treated me so well. I mean, I immediately think in the big leagues, it's different than coming off Tommy John, but, being a rookie and kind of figuring out the way. Joey Wendell, Jacob Stallings were two really big influences who, they wouldn't tell you they did anything different, but they would have conversations with me that made a huge impact later on. So those two come to mind.
What are some of those conversations or maybe nuggets of advice that really helped you out and maybe still affect you to this day?
Yeah, I had a start against the Braves early in 2023. I gave up 11 earned runs in 3 and change. I had never been dominated like that. I gave up 4 homers, 4, maybe 5. First time that ever happened to me like that. And, the next day was the first time in the big leagues I was like, I don't want to go to the field today. I'm so embarrassed. You feel like no one's ever given up that many runs in their life. And I get there, and Jacob and Joey immediately are like, hey, man, don't worry about it. We've seen this happen before. We all think you are nasty, and you're going to make a lot of starts for us. So, yeah, just simple words like that completely turned my year around because I was like, that was the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to me. And they just immediately flipped it for me.
That was a crazy year you went on to have, too. I mean, was it like a 3.63, something
Yep.
like that for that season?
Yep.
And then you have another setback, you get hurt. When you're going through Tommy John, how do you spend your time? Because you're not able to throw very much. That's got to be a really tough period to go through as a player.
Yeah. Yeah, you go to the field. I mean, in the minor leagues, if you're in minor league rehab, you're usually there early, and you're done pretty early, especially at the beginning stages of Tommy John rehab. You really are just getting treatment, trying to straighten your arm out, doing a few strength things that you can do, and then you're out of there. And, that's where having guys who are going through it with you help, play a lot of video games. You try and find hobbies that you didn't do when you were a kid. You're just killing time the best way you can, hopefully the most productive way you can. But, yeah, they're long days. You're going to have bad days, but it's just how it goes.
What kind of hobbies did you pick up during your rehab?
I didn't play a ton of video games growing up. Played a little bit, but wouldn't consider myself a gamer. Mm-hmm. That's kind of, now I do game a decent amount, and it kind of stemmed from that. It's like, what else am I going to do? If I'm going to be in the house, I might as well do something. I don't sit still very well, so I need something to occupy my brain.
What kind of games do you play?
Well, then that was right around when Fortnite came out, so it was a good time for that. Played a lot of Fortnite. My roommate Jordan Holloway got me on Call of Duty. He played that his whole life, and he would still to this day way better than anyone I know. So would try and play that with him, and really anything and everything. I remember we played a little bit of Fall Guys. That's still going on a little bit, so.
You stay away from MLB The Show?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never been an MLB The Show guy, but yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to playing somebody if they wanted to play, but no.
We touched on the no-hitter a little bit, but you were going up against Spencer Strider in that game. And you threw a no-hitter and lost. So was there after the game, how do you react to that?
You know, it was a tough game for us offensively, unfortunately, where you got Strider on the mound, and that Gwinnett team is a good team. They just happened to shut us out that game. The 2 runs that scored were completely my fault. So, you know, the loss is what it is. I'd never be like, wow, I can't believe these guys didn't score. It's just like, hey, it was a good start. I caused the runs to go in, and we lost. I'll take the good start and run and build on it.
Was there a muted celebration for the no-hitter?
A little bit, yeah. No, celebration, throwing anything around, but all the guys saying, you know, congrats, that's awesome, you know, things like that.
It's going to be a good story to tell.
For sure.
Down the line.
For sure.
Right now, it's safe to say you're kind of on the verge of a big league call-up. You're right there. You've been playing very well, obviously an established veteran, too, at that level. How do you approach that with knowing the call-up could be right around the corner, but at the same time trying not to maybe get ahead of yourself? And a lot of guys talk about taking it day by day. How do you balance all that noise going on around you?
Yeah, I mean, just as you said, it's a cliche, but it's a day by day thing. You got to be where your feet are. You know, we have a lot of coaches in here, players in here that can really help me. And, you know, I may be one of the older guys, but I learned things from Thomas White, from Robbie Snelling. I'm trying to learn all the time, and so I use these days to get better. I'm not a finished product, so I'm here in AAA. There's stuff that I can do better at this level and stuff that I could do better when I'm in the major leagues. So yeah, I just got to get better at them. And when it comes to the noise, I have no control over it, so it just is what it is. You know, when the time comes, I expect to be ready, and when it's not, I'll be working.
Do you get to tinker a little bit more with your stuff in AAA?
Certainly. Yeah, tinker a little bit more. But again, it not to the point where I don't care what goes on out there, but you do have the opportunity to work on stuff, and Ike, our pitching coach, knows that as well. Like maybe throw in 2 or 3 more changeups when I wouldn't, maybe 2 or 3 more cutters that I'm working on, stuff like that.
What's something that you've learned about yourself this season?
Man, you know, it's been up and down. You know, the 2-week road trip was hard. I didn't pitch my best there, and you know, this is the first time I've been in AAA in a long time. So kind of adjusting, you know, being away from my wife, my family, and you know, I've learned that, you know, your attitude coming into the field, like no matter your circumstance, whether you want to be called up, whatever it is, it's a choice. You know, no one's going to feel bad for you because you're sulking. You just got to show up and be happy and live life. You know, when you're miserable and sulking, it just makes your day bad. So I've kind of learned that the attitude's a choice, man. You just got to show up, be happy, and everything will fall into place.
I don't want to keep you here too long, so I only got a few more questions left. But Marlins fans, they saw a great Braxton Garrett last time you were at the big leagues. They've seen flashes of a front end of the rotation starter. How about next time they see you? What are maybe some differences they'll see in the way you pitch, or have you added a new weapon? Is there going to be a difference maybe on the mound?
Yeah, you know, right now compared to my previous self, I'm throwing a lot more changeups. That was a pitch I worked on a lot in my Tommy John rehab this time. And I consider it probably my best pitch right now. It gets me out of at-bats, but I can also get some swing and miss on it. So they'll be seeing a little more of that. I got a new hard slider to, you know, back up that big sweeper. So yeah, it's hopefully generally the same guy, really good command, going to pound the zone, and but just with a couple new weapons.
With the Marlins, they've done such a nice job of developing pitching. What is it about this organization that allows to have such depth at that position and continuing to pump out guys like yourself, like Yuri Perez, Sandy Alcantara, even like Robbie Snelling or Thomas White? What is it about this organization that allows them to get you guys performing your best?
Yeah, first of all, they do a good job of knowing who would fit in this organization. You know, they traded for Robbie, drafted Thomas, and those are two perfect guys to bring into this organization. And what they do well is they keep it simple in their philosophy. You know, we talk a lot about analytics, but it's always available. You know, when we're throwing, if we want it, we can get it. And just the way that we pitch, the way that we go about at bats, we keep it simple and you know, try and use each guy's strength the most that we can.
You pitched a playoff game in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know about the bullpen before that game. What was those fans get on you?
Oh yeah,
in Philly, right?
Philly's crazy. Yeah.
So what was that experience like for you?
I mean, just an amazing experience. You know, I don't know if I'd want to pitch my first playoff game anywhere else. And that being said, I've played in Philly a lot. Maybe someone who hasn't played in Philly a lot wouldn't want that. But, yeah, I mean, it's no different than a regular season game, believe it or not. There's just a few more guys yelling at you in the pen. But if it's the middle of June day game, you're getting yelled at. You're going to hear a few curse words. So it was all good. It's all fun, all part of the memories that I'll never forget.
And this kind of leads into, I want to leave you with a few fun questions. So my first one is there a fan line that they screamed at you, a chirp that you remember is a pretty good one?
You know, I always say the best line that I think is just guys saying you suck. You know, just right behind the dugout is great. But that playoff game, my dad told me this. I didn't even hear it. You know, I'm so locked in. I was walking in from the bullpen, and they're screaming out F Braxton Garrett. And my little sisters were at the game, and both my little sisters are crying because they're yelling at me. And, you know, my dad's loving it, laughing, thinking it's great. And, you know, that's a great memory. Not that I saw it, but my dad telling me after, I just thought it was so great.
Favorite restaurant you've ever hit on the road?
Oh, man. On the road, that's hard. You know, I went to Nobu for the first time in San Diego. Man, you know, I was teammates with Jesus Luzardo, and he's a foodie. Like, he knows the good spots and can get us hooked up. I've been to so many places with him, I forget, like, a lot of the names. But, you know, Nobu's a cliche one. But in Miami, Prime 112, it's a steakhouse in South Beach. Unbelievable place. It looks like a hole in the wall, but it's sick.
It's good stuff.
Good stuff.
Well, I mean, in Miami, you guys have to know where to go, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
That's your home.
Yeah, and again, about Miami, there's so many that I lose track of them. Like, I kind of just get not dragged there. I want to go, but it's usually with the boys, and I'm like, all right, wherever we go, we go. And I just show up. Do
you guys ever get recognized at those places?
Yeah, here and there. You know, some guys more than others, of course, but you know, it's a big Latin scene in Miami, so the Latinos will get recognized.
I went to a spot where it was a New York pizza place that they had to serve on like 2 separate plates because the slices were so big.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember the name of it, but I really want to get back there, catch a Marlins game, and get to that pizza place because I remember it being great.
Yeah.
And the last one I'll leave you with, it's a big topic in baseball the last couple of years. It's the closer entrances. They keep going crazy.
Yeah.
So if you were a closer, what would your entrance be?
Man. Dude, the closer entrances are so sick. Man.
It's got to get the fans going. Lights are going crazy.
My dad, growing up, we loved Metallica. So my mind immediately goes to something Metallica, something rock and roll. Maybe I like the song One by Metallica.
Okay.
When it's a little slow to start, and in the middle of the song it just starts ripping. Mm-hmm. Maybe that. Maybe the short slow right before it, and then right when it starts ripping the guitar solo. That'd be kind of cool.
You have a favorite walkout right now for a closer?
The only one coming to mind right now is Mason Miller's, and his is sick. I've only seen it on video, to be honest, like once or twice, but it's sick. Shoot.
You got to be ready to throw like 3 miles an hour harder.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll go Mason Miller, but of course Edwin Diaz, his went real viral. It's a good one. I remember David Bednar had a really good one in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I forget what that song's called, but his was great.
Yeah, I remember that one too. Duran right now in Philly.
Yep.
That one.
Yep.
There's some great ones out
Yeah.
there. Well, I appreciate your time, Braxton. I had a great time talking with you, and best of luck here the rest of the season.
Yeah, same here, man. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.